Hello and thank you for joining us on this episode of Chamber Connections. I'm Daniel Tisch, CEO of the Ontario Chamber of Commerce. On this show, we engage in conversation around current public policy issues. We explore the incredible diversity within the Chamber's business network, and we highlight the contributions business is making to Canadian communities. Today we're talking about one of the big questions on the minds of business people and ordinary people everywhere, and that's, does artificial intelligence change everything? And if so, how? To that end, I'm excited to welcome Marlene Floyd as our special guest today, right here in the OCC studio. Marlene is with Microsoft. She leads their corporate affairs, their public policy, and their advocacy efforts in Canada. Marlene's also, like so many of the people we interview, an avid volunteer and community leader. She sits on various national and community boards, including being the founder of Dress for Success Ottawa. Thanks for joining us, Marlene.
Thanks for having me.
So according to research, there are 46% of Canadians who see AI as a risk and only 40% who see it as an opportunity. And we're going to talk about both today.
Yeah.
But let's start with this idea of AI as an opportunity. How can we make that promise come true?
Well, I think it's a huge opportunity, particularly for Canada, in where it's positioned itself over the last decade or multiple decades. Artificial intelligence has been around for a while, and Canada has really led that charge on the research and the innovation that's gone into the modern day AI that we have. Now we're seeing the adoption of those AI products and applications across our economy, and that's where the real opportunity is. We've seen these developments in what we call generative AI or Gen AI, which is creation of word, of photos, of video, and all of these things that are just new and exciting. This technology is unlike anything we've ever seen, and there's a huge opportunity. But of course, there's going to be that risk and that fear factor. And there has to be a level of trust that has to be established. And I think it's up to companies like ourselves, companies that are in this space, that are adopting technology such as AI, to build that trust with people. We've done a recent study with Accenture, which actually stated what the economic opportunity for Canada will be if we can just start adopting AI. If we can do 40% basic adoption of AI, of generative AI in the Canadian economy, we can see an additional $187 billion into the Canadian economy on its own.
Wow.
This study that we did with Accenture showed that we could save 125 hours per year per employee with the use of generative AI. What that equals is about 8% increase in productivity in Canada, which for those that follow the whole productivity issue in Canada is extraordinary when you think that our own productivity levels have gone up 0.6% since 2015. So just by use of that technology, we can see significant productivity gains just by, an average employee adding a half hour to their week. These are the opportunities that are there if we can start building that trust. If we can start seeing where Canadians are and making sure that we're doing things in a transparent way and that they understand what the technology can do and what it can, where it's heading.
Yeah, and I guess trust really is the issue, right? I mean, I had my first ride in an autonomous vehicle recently in San Francisco, and it was interesting because I posted about it on LinkedIn, and it was about 50-50 people who said, this is awesome or this is scary. This is terrifying, right?
Absolutely.
And really that is about trust, isn't it?
It absolutely
so how do we build up that trust? How do we demystify it for Canadians?
Well, I think the first thing is understanding what AI is. And I will totally understand how Canadians are coming by the trust aspect. Amongst G7 and OECD countries, Canadians actually are the lowest on the trust barometer.
Wow.
In terms of their trust of the technology. And so I do think it's, like I said, up to companies like Microsoft, but also governments, organizations like yours, in order to educate and make sure that people have the skills that they need in order to see the full potential of the technology. I think that when we're seeing these trust elements, this is where we need to build responsible AI, that we look at things like fairness and transparency, reliability of those products. We need to deploy it in a way where people know that it's being used, how it's being used,
Right.
what decisions are being made. And then there's a role for government as well, where
Sure.
they regulate those things that we consider the highest risk.
Right.
And when I say high risk, these are like applications that impact your day-to-day life. If you're applying for a piece of insurance and AI is used to determine your qualification of that, well, that's a high risk activity and that absolutely needs to be regulated. But I think there's variations because not all risk is created equal.
Sure.
The way that you look at Spotify, which a lot of folks use for their music, well, it feeds you up your music selections. That's all being
That's
done
pretty
by
low risk.
AI,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
If you were in downtown Toronto, I'm sure a majority of folks are using Wayfinder applications on their phones, so Google Maps or Waze. The basis of that, AI.
Yeah.
And that's how, it's making sure that folks are realizing how this is integrated into their homes and how it's actually improving their lives.
Right. Well, I guess the hope, maybe the holy grail here, is that AI could make businesses more productive, right?
Yeah,
because that's
absolutely.
a huge problem that we have, that we talk about at the Chamber a lot
Yeah.
in Canada. So make businesses more productive, but also make professionals and workers more valuable.
Absolutely.
So what's Microsoft doing to play its role in the AI ecosystem?
So I think you have hit the nail on the head of AI is there to augment human ingenuity, the human brain.
Yeah.
It's not there to replace. And what we're seeing with generative AI is you use some really great examples. I'll give you some other examples at Microsoft. So Microsoft has built AI, what we call co-pilots, into almost all of our Office and business suites. What does that mean? Well, first off, it's a co-pilot. It's not the pilot.
Right.
It's helping you as kind of your person at the side to do your everyday work. How does that work? Well, we all do dreaded video conferences, meetings. Well, on Teams now, you can do Copilot can provide you with a summary of your meeting, including the action items, right? So little things like you don't need to be sitting there taking notes, determining what the actions are and sending it out to your colleagues. It's being done for you in the background.
Right.
I'm sure like you spend a half hour of your day just kind of combining notes and sending it off on follow-up notes, and here's what we agreed to. Imagine that being done for you.
So those
that's an extra half hour of your day that you can use your brain for something else.
And you're working on those kinds of productivity tools, integrating them into Microsoft products.
It's there now,
Yeah,
right?
it's there now.
It's there now.
Yeah.
It's utterly amazing. Like PowerPoint.
Yeah.
I always say,
Do people know it's there?
well, this is it. And this is this education piece that has to start happening. This technology is developing so quickly that generative AI came out in 18 months ago. It's a new technology, and we're trying to figure out how to put these applications into our existing tools.
So I was recently at a conference where I heard from Frank Shaw, your Chief Communications Officer at Microsoft, and he was talking really quite compellingly about how AI was going to redesign how Microsoft works. And so I'm curious about that. How are you seeing AI used within your own business?
Yeah, every day. So, I'm not on the technical side of things.
Right.
So for me, it's a productivity tool. It's
Right.
about making my life easier, quicker, faster so that I can spend more times with my kids. So I'm done, that I don't need to do that extra email at 6 p.m. because I can have one drafted for me. Looking for those documents on a shared drive that everybody's looking for. Copilot can go and find it for you,
Right.
right? Doing a first draft of social media posts.
Right.
right? Instead of saying, here's, I'm going to spend 2 hours writing, my Facebook posts for the next month. Well, it can do a first draft for you.
I want to dig into just that topic,
Yeah.
to small business and the opportunities there and how we can actually make this more valuable for small business. But first, we're going to take a little break, but we'll be back very shortly with more from Marlene Floyd of Microsoft.
As a chamber member, you know you're connected to a network of businesses, resources, and support to help your business grow. But there's another exclusive benefit that's designed just for your business and employees. Introducing Canada's #1 employee benefits plan for your growing business. Drumroll, please. Chambers Plan. It's a not-for-profit plan that pools premiums from over 30,000 businesses, so you can count on stable rates for years to come. Chambers Plan is packed with free value adds, like virtual healthcare for your employees, and consultations with HR and legal experts for your business. Need more options? Customize your plan by adding health spending accounts, lifestyle spending accounts, employee assistance programs, and other best-in-class options. Join a not-for-profit plan that's designed to ensure your business, employees, and local community stay healthy and strong. It's all within reach for chamber members like you.
In today's digital age, cities across Canada face the challenge of keeping their best and brightest engaged at the local level. In 2019, the Chamber of Commerce for Greater Moncton launched a unique program that would underscore the diverse talents shaping the region's future. They introduced Greater Moncton's Top 20 Under 40. This event celebrates young leaders under the age of 40 who significantly contribute to the community and local economy. Recognizing individuals across different sectors, business, arts, health, and public service. This event shines a light on volunteerism, innovation, and leadership, while emphasizing the importance of young professionals in developing our communities.
Welcome back. Well, we hope you enjoyed our Main Street moment. With each one of these, our network of local chambers and boards of trade across the country continues to inspire us with their strength and their creativity. So we're joined again now by Marlene Floyd of Microsoft Canada. So Marlene, before the break, you got me thinking about small business.
Yeah.
And that's such an important thing to talk about because a lot of small businesses see AI as something that's far in the future and maybe even a little bit scary. Have you seen any particularly great examples of how a small business is using AI to become more productive and maybe even more profitable?
Absolutely. I think there's, going back to our previous question on trust and how we build, I think that having these examples of AI in action is really where we're going to show and build trust for the technology. So I like this example out of this company out of Ottawa, and it's called Context Air. And they have developed an AI application, which is helping those frontline workers. They call it their blue collar AI. And so it's really about bringing AI and technology to that last kind of leg. What they've said is, hey, if you're like an HVAC technician and you've gone up to the 21st floor, downtown Toronto, and you're there and you're looking at a machine that you're trying to fix, and you're not quite sure what's wrong with it. Well, on this application called their Madison, it's a chatbot, you can say, it's this type of machine.
Right.
I think it needs fluid. What type of fluid does it have? And the back end is all the manuals. And it's small things that technician still knows how to fix it, but it's giving him that knowledge at his fingertips that makes it so easy for them to identify and to just make, when we say more productive. So say now that service call takes a half hour
Right.
instead of an hour and 15 minutes,
Yeah.
right? So
And you can right away see how that can improve customer service and customer satisfaction and make the worker more productive and the business more
Yeah.
successful right away,
Right. Yeah.
right? That's amazing.
So when we talk about productivity, I think that's a really good example.
It's a great example,
right?
yeah. So let's turn to some of the challenges with AI, some of the concerns. And the two that you hear about the most are disruption, right? People losing their jobs. The other one you hear about is ethics and ethical concerns around it. Can you talk to me a little bit about those issues and how we manage them?
Absolutely. And I think that those are very valid concerns that the public has. And it's up to companies like Microsoft to ensure that they're having responsible AI by design. That when we're building AI products, at the very beginning, we're thinking about things like transparency, that there might be bias, and how do we mitigate for that, that we're ensuring that there's fairness, that we have accountability, transparency, all of these things built into AI products, and that we're thinking about it from a holistic point of view. I think that's a really important piece on the ethics side. I also think that you're right. There probably will be some displacement. This is a major technology that is coming across the world, not just Canada. But it's kind of like the internet. It's here, it's not going anywhere. In the early 90s, if you had said, oh, I'm not going to be an internet company, I don't think that we would still be here. I think we're all going to have to adopt AI technology. But I think there's huge opportunity here as well, of upskilling, of making sure that our employees in this country, that our citizens understand what the opportunity is with AI, that they have those skills. And when I say skills, I'm not talking about can they code. I'm saying, do they understand how to use it?
Sure.
What the opportunity is, how they can make their life kind of better. And as we discussed earlier, what we've determined is that you still can only automate a small portion of someone's role. That ingenuity, that purely humanesque part of your job that you bring, there's no way that you can automate that.
So in some ways, it's giving people strategic skills, relational skills, and probably analytical skills, right? That will compensate for some of the losses in more technical roles that might be displaced.
Yeah, and I think that that's where it's up to Microsoft, companies like ours, to help to reskill. I think there's a cultural change that also has to happen within corporations and within businesses, that their leadership understands what this means, that there is a change there, that there has to be an adoption of how companies apply this, how they do that cultural change within their organizations. And so there's responsibilities at all levels. And then I think there's probably a role for government to play here too, in terms of ensuring that the citizens are well prepared for this new AI economy that's coming and is here.
Yeah. So let's actually end on that front, right? Because obviously your role and your contribution to all of this, I assume, is in the area of public policy. And so in the whole domain of public policy, advocacy, public affairs, what contribution does Microsoft aspire to make in Canada when it comes to AI?
I think part of the big part of what I'm doing day to day is working with the federal government and our provincial governments to ensure that the right safeguards or guardrails are placed upon AI. We're building responsible AI products, wanting to ensure that others are as well, and developing what those guardrails are. We've often been long proponents that the AI technology needs to have smart regulation around it, that it is developing at a rate that it can be used as a tool or a weapon. And we have to ensure that those that have that high risk are regulated, and that we ensure that we have a level of transparency into those AI applications. I think Canada's done a really great job of leading around the world on some of its AI regulation and how they think about it. I think Canada has a really unique place to play in the globe, mainly building upon its research capacity that it's had in this experience, but also it's a G7 member. There's a really great code of conduct that came out of the Hiroshima process, we call it, out of Japan's presidency 2 years ago, which set like this code of conduct for AI companies. And now we're starting to say, how do they report on that? How does that look? Here's our expectations.
Right. Yeah,
of these companies,
so
right?
the role of government
Yeah.
being to set those expectations,
Yes.
to frame it, right?
Yeah.
And as you say, to ensure there are guardrails
Yeah.
that ensure it's used responsibly.
And I think that's going to help with that trust piece that we keep going back to in this conversation. Is the government of Canada has funded what we call an AI Safety Institute, and that's about building trust in the technology, right?
Yeah.
Understanding what's going into these models, understanding how this application is being used, and ensuring that Canadians are protected.
Yeah, it's so interesting because, the more I learn about this, and we're all going to keep learning about it for many years to come, is that the barrier to AI's implementation, it isn't technological, it really is human, isn't it? It's about the trust, and it's about redesigning workplaces to make it work.
Yeah,
right?
it's going to be a culture change.
Yeah.
Both, within our society, but also in corporations. And with any major development in technology, there's going to be a rub, right? And how we as a country, how we as business leaders, how we as the general public respond to that rub is really how we're going to be successful. I truly believe that Canada has a huge advantage in with the amount of research and adoption and the ability to adopt AI technology in this country that can really set it apart as a competitive market on the global side. And that really is what I think that we should be embracing, is that opportunity. I think there's ways to mitigate those risks, making sure that we build trusted AI, that we have that reliability that people are demanding and wanting. But I think the opportunity is just so large.
Marlene, I'm sure that vast numbers of people watching this are users of Microsoft products.
Yeah.
Obviously. So can you give them a simple tip as to something they can use right now that can help them make their lives or their workplaces a little bit better through AI?
Absolutely. So obviously the co-pilots are now deployed in all the Microsoft products. So there's that opportunity that you can purchase that as a product. If you're not quite there yet, I think there's a great opportunity just to get your feet wet and start playing in it. And that's the one thing that I'm going to encourage people to do. Play around with it. You can go to like free service offerings. I like to go to Bing, which is a search engine, Bing/chat. And there's a co-pilot in there that will allow you search the web, and it's bringing up this generative AI responses. You can have it help you create a vacation plan. I used it to plan a trip to Disney, where I asked it for, I want a hotel with a pool for an 8 and 12-year-old. What are my options? And give me a 3-day itinerary. And it pulled up an itinerary for me of what my trip to Disney with my kids could look like.
That's great. So it's
we still have not gone, which is a very testy topic, but at least I have the plan.
Bing/chat.
Yeah.
All right, there we go. There's a simple tip for you. Marlene, thank you so much for a wonderful conversation
Well,
today.
thanks for having me today. It was a lot of fun.
Have you heard about Canada's #1 employee benefits plan for small business? Introducing Chambers Plan. With stable annual premiums supported by a business community over 30,000 strong. And add-ons included at no extra charge. Join a not-for-profit plan that's designed to ensure your business, employees, and local community stay healthy and strong. It's all within reach with Chambers Plan.
For over a century, Ontario's Chambers of Commerce and Boards of Trade have been a driving force, supporting both communities and businesses. Through challenges, we've stood strong, connecting voices and advocating for what matters most. In the spirit of collaboration, we find strength. A network of over 60,000 business owners shaping the future of our province by driving sustainable economic growth and cultivating resilient communities. We are your community partners. Together, we are unstoppable. For more information, visit www.occ.ca/chamber-network-directory.
Well, I hope you enjoyed watching that conversation as much as I enjoyed being part of it. And if there's one thing I take away, it's something the Chamber's been talking a lot about, and that is the extent to which AI can help make Canadian businesses more productive and make Canadian workers more valuable. Think about what Marlene told us about the idea that the average worker could save 125 hours per year, yielding an 8% gain in productivity. I think that's pretty compelling. As always, I want to thank our sponsor, the Chamber's Plan, Canada's #1 employee benefits plan for small business. Chamber's Plan, it's for your benefit. Finally, I want to thank you, our audience, and we'd encourage you to keep the conversation going. You can find the Ontario Chamber on LinkedIn, on X, on Facebook, and on Instagram. We'll see you next time.